What up, guys? So let's talk about this weekend. We had probably the most amazing weekend of Jiu-Jitsu I think I can ever remember, where you had CJI giving away, millions of dollars, literally, and then you had the ADCC, which was, I thought it was more exciting as far as the matches go than the ADCC 2 years ago. I'm still at the hotel getting ready to go back home, and I figured I'm chewing on these ideas. I'm sure you guys are sort of thinking about the experience in two, and so I figured I would do this video with you guys very soon afterwards, and we can chew on these together. Feel free to comment down below and let me know your thoughts about the weekend, the events, the things you like, the things you dislike, everything else. So with that said, I'm going to talk about a couple different things that I liked about each organization, the CJI and the ADCC, and then I'll also talk about one, I won't say negative because I'm not really that guy. I'm not going to be like a person that just wants to spew negativity, but we'll say things that maybe something that I think would just be more desirable or something that maybe could improve it, just from my own bearded opinion, of course. So with that said, let's jump into this video and let's compare the CJI, the ADCC, and talk about this whole weekend. So let's jump into CJI first, because I was all wrong about the CJI. I remember I made a podcast, a few months ago when Craig initially announced this thing, right, 2 months ago, and I saw the podcast that he did with Joe Rogan, and it seemed like this big giant troll job. And I don't really follow Craig online because I really love his jiu-jitsu. His jiu-jitsu's phenomenal, but I sort of place him in the spot with Gordon. Gordon's jiu-jitsu is really good, right? But I don't actually follow them on social media because I don't really like their profiles. It's always Craig was going and doing weird stuff in Thailand with the Thai lady boys and stuff like that. I'm I don't really want to see that. I like jiu-jitsu. I don't really want to. I don't care about shenanigans, right? With Gordon, it's random posts that are just, I feel like they're meant to sort of poke the bear on people. I don't really care, not my thing. So I don't find it entertaining, so I don't follow him online. So maybe that was my sort of thing where I don't know the personality. But he really came through and put together an amazing event that I think stepped the jiu-jitsu level up a bit. As far as being a spectator event for jiu-jitsu, for casual people to come in and enjoy this, I think he raised the level up. I was all wrong about the CJI, so many of you guys who commented back months ago said, Chewy, you're wrong about this. You were correct. I was wrong about this, and I'm not too proud to admit that. And so again, hats off to Craig for putting together an amazing event. And one of the things that made it so exciting, in my bearded opinion, is the alley that they put together, the pit thing that they put together, where you could not have an out of bounds match. Because one of the things that you see at tournaments, it doesn't matter any of them, IBJJF, Polaris, the ADCC, doesn't matter. You get guys that will constantly go out of bounds all the time, and there's so many times where you're like, man, they almost had this takedown, and it would have completely changed the match, right? Like the Nicky Rod match with Owen Livesley, right? That match happened in Polaris, and it was a much different match than it was in the pit, where they couldn't go out of bounds, and you have two guys that are going to battle for takedowns. Made it really fun to watch, I think. And a lot of those matches at the CJI were really fun matches. And with that, the sort of the period or round system that they put in place, right? Wrestling has rounds or periods, MMA fighting and everything else has periods and rounds. Jiu-Jitsu typically doesn't, right? And a lot of times with these big tournaments, the rounds get longer and longer. ADCC is sometimes 10 to 20 minutes long. You have the IBJJF, which is 10 minutes for black belts, and you got to think about what that does. If you have this stretch of 10 or 20 minutes or whatever it is, a fighter, in the back of their mind, whether they will admit this or not, in the back of their mind, they're sort of sizing it up, where it's okay, I've got 100 units of energy that I can spend, right, of cardio energy, if you will, to spend, and it's 10 minutes or it's 20 minutes. They will spread that out a little bit, because nobody wants to end up on the other end where you are now gassed out and you're vulnerable to being submitted because you tried to dump all your energy out earlier to finish the person. It didn't work, and now you're on the other end and you don't have the energy to fight back. With the 5-minute round system, you have the ability to do a quick burst of 5 minutes with a minute break. And a minute break with a really highly trained competitor is a long period of time to recover. Again, they would obviously like more if you could get it, but in the middle of the match, that's a big deal. A lot of you guys go to the gym and you will have 5-minute rounds with 1-minute breaks, right? That 1-minute break makes a big difference. And so that round system, I think, really helped out to pace the people, where they got these periodic breaks so they could catch their breath. And also with that, because the round system was put in place, you couldn't simply win early, get the points, win one round, and then ride it out for the rest of it. You won that one round, but now you have 2 more to go, or 3 more, or 4 more to go, whatever it is. And in some cases, the decision wins that they had, you had guys where they were going into the final round, whether that was the 5th round or the 3rd round, and each of them were evenly scored where they have to win the next one to win. And it made for really exciting competition matches. And I liked the event overall. I thought it was a great energy in the room when I went there. And I'm really happy that even though Craig was going tit for tat with the ADCC and going against them, and trying to battle them, he put the event in such a way that it didn't interfere with the ADCC too much, because I was afraid, because I was coaching Brandon at the ADCC, that I was going to have to miss out on all the matches at the CJI. And so it was really awesome that I was able to get over there, because I want to support it. I like supporting Jiu-Jitsu, right? And so I was glad that we were able to go to the ADCC, do all the ADCC stuff, and also go to the CJI stuff. I didn't get a lot of sleep this weekend because of it, so there's that side of it. At the same time, I got a lot of great Jiu-Jitsu. And when I go to live Jiu-Jitsu events, it's nothing like watching it at home. It's so exciting. I encourage any of you guys, if you ever get the chance to go to a live Jiu-Jitsu event, I encourage you to do it. It will get you excited to compete. It'll get you excited to just train. There's an energy that comes from it. And so again, hats off to Craig for doing that. Now, one not so positive thing that happened, was that because the event was put together in 8 weeks or whatever it was, right? You had a couple things going on where, one, there was a lot of empty seats on Friday. I don't know what it looked like Saturday towards the end, because I wasn't there at the end on Saturday, but on Friday there were a lot of empty seats, and it was very patchy. There were still a lot of people there, don't get me wrong, but there were still a lot of empty seats. And then on 2, I don't know if maybe I just missed out or something, but the vendor areas were essentially sort of bare. At some points, I remember seeing, there was one vendor area that was like a table, and they just had some packets of stuff spread out. There wasn't even a guy behind it. It was just kind of there. And, I remember the vendor area in 2022 at the Thomas and Mack Arena where the ADCC was there, and it was just filled to the brim with stuff. It was, even back then, the vendor areas were exciting, and there's people just buzzing around. That said, it's a small thing, and I'm really excited to see what Craig does with it now, and I hope that he blows it out of the water and continues to push it, because, again, it was a really spectator-friendly event, and that's what we're trying to do sometimes with Jiu-Jitsu, is get the casual fans in it, because many of you guys watching, right, you're Jiu-Jitsu people, many of you guys are casual Jiu-Jitsu practitioners, and many of you do not watch competitions. You don't find it entertaining. The event that Craig put on was very digestible to the average person who doesn't really have a knowledge of the complexity of the sport, and can watch it a little bit more easy. It's like a person who's never played American football. If you have never played it, you don't know the rules, it's not going to be entertaining to you. It's just like watching someone throw a ball around, and you're kind of sort of figuring out what the rules are. Whereas if you understand kind of the idea roughly, it can be a little bit more entertaining. And this is the case with the CJI. You can watch it, and even if you're a casual Jiu-Jitsu fan who doesn't know the complexity of its points and all this stuff with competitions, you can watch it and go, I see what's going on. I can see that guy's winning. And so I thought Craig did a great job of doing that, and I hope he's able to get the backing and the funding to keep this thing going and to grow it. Now let's talk about the ADCC and the good and maybe the not so good. So some of the good was that because the CJI took some of the competitors, it opened up a lot of people in the roster for new blood to be mixed into the divisions. One of the things that you see in the ADCC is that you'll see a lot of the same names over and over and over again, and sometimes you don't see a lot of new people being thrown into the mix. And because the spots were opened, people were thrown in. My competitor Brandon was one of the guys that got put into the mix because there was an open spot at heavyweight at the plus 99. So he got put in, and he took his chance and went for it and got a highlight reel takedown and went up against one of the toughest guys in the world and showed some heart, got out some tough positions, escaped, and I'm really proud of him. But there were a lot of guys that had some really big upsets. Guys like Ryan Akins from down in 10th Planet, Atlanta, where he got a submission against Pedro Marino, who had to be one of the favorites of that division, and he goes in there and submits him really quick with a heel hook. And it was really surprising, right? We a lot of people weren't expecting, and a lot of people, if they didn't follow these people before, they were probably sleeping on them, kind of like, I don't think so. I don't think that guy's going to be able to do much. It's like the guy Lucas Kennard at the CJI. Like, he submitted Victor Hugo with a knee bar. And again, Victor's very good with legs. And so we're all kind of like, holy crap, who's this guy? And so I think that new blood really injected a level of excitement into the ADCC. And if you watch the matches, there were a lot of exciting matches at the ADCC. I personally think that the matches this year overall, if you look at them, were more exciting than in 2022 when the ADCC there was more buzz around it because of the Andre Galvao and Gordon Ryan, and just everybody was packed in there. I think the matches were better. You looked at the men's final matches and then the female Adele Fornarino. I mean, tons of finishes there. All of them were either finishes or won by points within the regulation time limit. They didn't go to overtime. And then you had matches like Giancarlo Bodoni and you had J-Rod. They were trying to finish each other. They were there to battle. And J-Rod started pushing and Bodoni matched him, and they just said, screw it, we're going to try to kill each other. And it made for a fun match. And also you have to give a mention to the Cade Rotolo and Andrew Tackett match. That's like an all-time awesome match to watch. One of the most exciting matches I've ever watched in Jiu-Jitsu. It's amazing. And then also, maybe a positive, maybe people see this as a negative, but smaller amount of intro and all the crazy stuff that went on at the beginning of last time's ADCC championships in 2022. I think that was a good thing, right? They did the Hall of Fame ceremony on a different day. They didn't have the crazy announcements going on with their names. They didn't have people walking out for an hour. I thought that was good because, as a competitor, you're probably not wanting to do that. You don't want to have to go stand out there for an hour. Then also, too, from the spectator standpoint, we're sitting in the stands kind of, eventually it's just too much. It's fun to have a little pageantry and get everything started, but there's a certain point where you're like, this is too much. It's starting to drag on. And so I think they did enough to make it exciting, put on a little show, put on a little pageantry, but at the same time not overdo it like they kind of did last year or 2 years ago when it was just so long and drawn out. And overall, I think the ADCC experience was great, right? It was fantastic. Now, one rub that I have with the ADCC, and this has been my rub with their matches for a long time, which is you need to get rid of this no points round that they have, because I like the theory, right? Where you go in, you don't have points, just go for the finish, right? I understand. But what happens is, in reality, most times is basically the competitors treat it as, this doesn't really count, so I'm not going to spend a lot of energy now. I'm going to wait till it goes to points. And so it creates this passivity, this boring sort of battle where neither competitor's really going for it, with the exception of guys who are just trying to finish. Like when J-Rod got into the battle with Bodoni, he was not going for the little squeak by on an advantage or negative point. He was trying to finish him. But I think they just need to get rid of that no points thing. I get it. It's a thing. It's always been there. It's part of the tradition. It's a theory, but I think in reality it just doesn't work. And then the other thing is I think they'd be better shortening the matches down. Just say look, it's 10 minutes. It's a 10-minute match. And you guys are going to go try to kill each other and finish the match or win by points or whatever. And at the end of the 10 minutes, that's it. There is no more overtimes. It's going to go to a ref's decision unless maybe it's the finals. Maybe you save an overtime for the finals or something. But during the regulation matches, go after each other. And again, this goes back to this idea that as a competitor, you're going to look at the thing and have contingencies. And you're thinking to yourself, do I think I can submit this guy? If not, how long do I need to go against this guy? How many minutes is it going to take? Am I going to go with the full duration? If this is probably going to be a decision. You factor these things in as a competitor. And so again, if you're looking at a championship match, a 20-minute match plus overtimes and things like that, that is a long time. And in many cases, guys they will not go for the finish like that. Right? And think about other sports. Think about wrestling as an example, a grappling cousin to jiu-jitsu. Well, with wrestling, in high school we go 6 minutes. 3 2-minute periods, 6 minutes. If you manage to go to the Olympics, the highest level of wrestling, they don't say, okay, now we're going to make it 30 minutes. Right? They just say go faster. And so I think that would be a better sort of style, again, saying, hey, listen, we're going to get rid of this no points thing because you're not doing anything in this anyway, and let's shorten the timer down, and let's make you go after it and just finish each other, and we're going to make a ref's decision, so you need to be active, and you need to be active in this 10-minute period. It's like the Eddie Bravo Invitational, right? If you watch the old Eddie Bravo Invitationals, guys were just trying to finish each other. They haven't sort of figured out the system, and then now if you watch an EBI where you have a 10-minute round plus the overtimes, in a lot of cases, not all of them, but in a lot of cases, it turns into guys just sort of fiddling around for the first 10 minutes, and then once it comes to the overtime rounds, they save all their energy for there. And so I think the ADCC, if they want to make it more spectator friendly and attract more eyeballs of casual fans, right, you're going to have to make the thing more exciting. And I think to do that, you need to condense the match down so competitors who are very high level know, I'm not going to gas out. I can go, full tilt for 10 minutes or whatever and, not completely be done. Or you're going to have to stretch it out into periods or something so they can go faster. But again, you have to do something like that because otherwise you're going to have these fast-paced matches over here at a CJI or other similar events. The PGF, I know my buddy Brandon McGaffron runs that organization. They're doing 6-minute matches because he's like, why does it need to be so long? Which, again, I agree with. And I think that maybe we need to move away from this long, drawn-out sort of match format that we had for a long time and move towards either a shorter duration match, or you move into a round system or period system where you can maybe stretch a match out to be longer, but with breaks in between so guys can catch their breath and know that they're not going to end up in deep waters completely exhausted, that sort of thing. So anyway, those are my ideas, guys. Again, I'm sort of going off the cuff here. I didn't sort of write these down. I'm just basically giving them to you from my bearded noggin to you. But what are your thoughts? If you guys went to the events this weekend, did you go to one? Did you go to both? What did you like about them? What did you not like about them? What would you like to see different? I'm curious to see what you guys think. I was asking this to you guys as we were meeting this weekend at the different events. I was asking you guys what you thought about it, which competitions you were going to. And it was interesting to see that. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. And again, if any of you guys get a chance to go to live jiu-jitsu events, I encourage you, go to them. They are so much fun. It is different being in the arena, watching it with the energy that's going on, the feeling. It is a different experience. And again, it supports the events. If you guys want to get out there and support Craig and his mission with CJI, or if you really want to support the ADCC and what they're doing, whatever, go out and see those events. It's really important. Again, the sport grows, and there's money that comes from people like you, people that are just regular fans that get out there and do it. I know not everybody can do that all the time, but if you ever get a chance, it's definitely worth it. And from a standpoint of even wanting to make your jiu-jitsu better, you'll probably be left with a certain level of energy or excitement, inspiration. It's like when you get a bunch of guys together and they watch UFC and then they want to go fight each other. Well, you'll come out of watching one of those events and you just want to go home and train and practice and get better at jiu-jitsu. And guys, as a last aside, and guys, also one thing I did want to throw in there that I forgot to add into it is the fact that from the competitor standpoint, from the people that were working the events, from the fans that you guys that were out there, for the most part, it was almost universally positive, the two events, right? I talked to a lot of people, and almost everyone that was at the events was going to both, right? They were going to CJI, they were going to ADCC, the whole thing. And, you know, there were guys who were competing at CJI, and then they were there, you know, supporting their teammates, and they were cheering people on at the next event. So, you know, a lot of the negativity around the whole thing is fueled by a lot of internet trolls and things like that, but the actual people on the ground, the people that are there watching the events, the competitors that are a part of it, for the most part, it's been pretty positive. And so, again, don't give in to the negative bullshit that's all over the internet. Just my thoughts. But again, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Talk to you guys next time.